Hello everybody and welcome to our next episode of A Get a Life Moment with myself, Lisa Davies. And today I am joined by Janie Anderson-Temperley, who is a new children's author. Welcome, Janie. How are you today?
I'm really well, thank you, Lisa, and thank you for having me on. I'm very excited.
No, you're most welcome. Now, I was really blessed to attend the book launch of your brand new book on Saturday. It was absolutely, I was in childlike wonder just at the illustrations. It looks stunning and I can't wait for my copy to arrive. But before we get on to that, we are of course going to talk at length about the Navistar, I have no doubt. But before we get on to that, for my audience that have never met you before, who is Janie Anderson-Temperley?
Okay, so I have quite a varied background, but for most of all, I would describe myself as a mum. And the reason I say that is because my journey has been so involved with the children. I did the business side of things, and I've been a chartered surveyor. I've worked in sales, I've worked in marketing, but I have always been a mum, and that's really how I would like to describe myself. Yeah. And with a lot of writing in a drawer, stuffed in a drawer. So I have a really, really busy life. I have children ranging from 2 to 17. So yeah, it's full on.
Yeah. And so talk to me about the journey that's taken you to this point of becoming a children's author then.
So I've always written poetry. I have written from the heart mainly, in terms of if somebody had a celebration, I would write a 50th or a golden wedding. I would write a poem for them. There's loos across Lincolnshire with my poetry in it, and always really understanding the person that I'm writing it for. And I've got nursery rhymes stuffed away, I've got diaries stuffed away, but the journey really started probably when I was 40 and I went through a divorce, and I think that is when you start to learn really who you are. You have to dig your heels in, dig deep. And I would say I was in search of what is happiness, what is well-being, why am I here? All these questions that probably in my younger days didn't appear. And then as I obviously have my children, they start to bring out, as your inner child, I think.
Yeah.
Who am I? What am I doing? Which path am I going? So all these questions started to come up, which started a healing journey, probably is the best way to describe it. Yeah.
So I mean, it was obviously always there. This desire, this nudge to write was clearly always there. So why the Navistar? Tell us a little bit about the Navistar. Who or what is the Navistar?
Yeah, so this character has always been in my mind. I always wanted to write children's books, but too busy looking after children, too busy holding a job down. And then when, as I mentioned, the life changes at 40, that scenario happened, I started thinking, oh, I can do this. And but it wasn't until I experienced the journey that I've been on with my children that he started to take shape. So this is him. He's absolutely beautiful. So I always knew it was going to be an adventure story. And I had that character in my mind and it needed to be magical and mystical. But really, he started out called Avatar, which was never going to work. And an avatar...
No, I can see all sorts of issues with that.
Really, I know. But what Avatar means is divine teaching. It actually is self. It is actually a Hindu that's what it means, divine teacher. And I've always had, not that I am the divine teacher, but there was always something. So I started off, and when you talk about marketing, they always ask for your avatar. So it started off there, and then of course the sat-nav system that is intuition that we all have.
Yeah.
I started to roll that into the name, and I probably had at some point Star Nav or something like that, but it just came after a while of knowing I wanted to build something that meant self. Who am I? What am I? And intuition is what this book is about. How to find it, how to discover it.
It's finding your inner sat nav, your inner guidance system then.
And we all have it, and sometimes we don't listen to it. And I think certainly some choices I made in life could have been better if I'd have listened to that voice.
It's a feeling as well, though. It's very embodied, isn't it? You're in a sat nav. I mean, I don't know about you, but I find that you instantly get that feeling either, you know, in your gut, in your belly, or in your solar plexus. You know when something's taking you towards something that's right for you or taking you away from it. You know, don't you, when you're on the wrong road? And yet we do, certainly as adults, I think, can get drawn down the wrong some cul-de-sac, shall we say. But
you can't use it if you overthink it either. It has to be that feeling, and I describe it to children who already have it. They are the best actually at it, but it's making sure they know what it is. That I describe it in my book as that voice with deep, deep tones, and it really is. When you hear that voice, that parents could just say, when you hear that, that really means something, not the monkeys up here. Yeah.
So what sort of response have you had from your own children to the Navistar?
They are my biggest critics, to be fair. They love it. The little ones love it and completely get it. And also part of this book is about positive thinking, living in the moment, changing your thoughts. So all of that, my older one would get, and we practice. And breathing as well has been something that is really important. But they think it's great. I mean, they love it, and they love the fact that it's down on paper now and they can see the illustrations and they've been through the journey. But the 2-year-old will look at the pictures and thinks it's very special because they're all lined up here and he keeps grabbing them because that's exciting. And then Millie was quite critical at some points, just saying, we were talking about it from a child's point of view. Well, Mum, and then I had to stand myself back in a child's shoes and go, yes, I can see. So it's been really good to write it, and they've been really helpful actually.
So it is, of course, a children's book, but in many cases, I'm guessing that parents will be reading along with the smaller children. So is there a message in there for the adults too?
Well, I am not a teacher, and this book is completely written from the heart and experience. But I would in my note at the back, I would have loved to have read this book with my mum. I come from a farming family. We did it this way, and it was all very, you know. So, but I would have loved to have sat down and talked about a little bit of magic. What is intuition, healing, breathing, how do you know, and living in the moment. And we just probably didn't do that. But I think this will be a great discussion point with parents, grandparents, to say, so what do you think your intuition? Can you feel it? Do you know what it is? And it will be good for parents to read it together, and they might even say, well, actually, I don't listen to mine either.
I guess that was what I was getting at, because you know, I'm kind of picking up that there is a positive psychology aspect to it, there is a mindfulness aspect to it, there's something quite magical and spiritual weaved within there. Am I kind of getting that right? It's quite got a more spiritual, magical element to it as well with that intuition.
I think it's really important that I didn't come across as this is about your third eye, which is incredibly important in healing. This is your instinct. This is where you see amazing things and you really become intuitive. Children don't really need to know that. They already have this, describe it as a superpower. They already possess it.
Yeah, it's already there. It's only as adults that kind of cover it over and, you know.
Yes, and there are boundaries and barriers that we put up for children. And yes, absolutely, teaching right from wrong, yeah, and then how to, you know, sit nicely at a table, all of those things, they all come, but sometimes I think we push them into places that perhaps they didn't need to be.
Yeah.
And perhaps we should have just talked something through a little bit more. I think we're all on the another part of the book is slowing down and being in the moment. And having my little boy at 2, I've really stopped and watched and nurtured all of being little.
Do you think that's changed? Because obviously you said your children range from 2 to 17. My daughter's going to be 28 tomorrow. And I think that, you know, older and wiser that you are, do you think you've evolved the way that you have been as a parent and as a person with the 2-year-old?
Definitely. I think as a young mum, back in the day, I didn't have any support from a mum myself. So, you know, going back to basics, even breastfeeding felt like a huge challenge to me, and I failed. I did 2 months and I felt a failure, you know, at that point. But yes, I was definitely a little bit more wired, I would say, to whether or not I was doing it right or not. Yes.
And certainly that slowing down, I think I can only speak from my own experience as a relatively young mum when I had my daughter at 24, that I was a career mother, and you know, everything was on fast pace, whereas, you know, now at 52 I can kind of just be, you can just be.
Yeah. Interestingly, because of the book, that's flipped around a bit for me, and I also do websites for people, so I have never been busier. It's quite strange, but I'm really good now at structuring. I have to sit down with my children at this stage. There are sometimes I can't do that, but I'll explain that to them. But yeah, I'm busier than ever, which is very strange. It's me telling everybody to slow down and I'm getting quicker. How do we do it as mums? I
You
don't
need
know.
to read the Navistar again, Janie.
I do. I read it quite a lot, actually.
It is interesting birthing your first book, isn't it? I was having this conversation just the other day, actually, because well, actually this morning it came up again, because I run an abundance and gratitude meditation group through Facebook, and I have done since the beginning of staying at home the first time, and we're doing a photographic challenge this month. So you put up a photograph to do with a theme each day, and then there's a meditation that goes with it. And today it was a book that is important to you, a book that changed your life, and I put a photograph of my own book up there, because there is something wonderful, isn't there? You've got this concept in your mind's eye of something, and you imagine what it can be like, and then you manifest it into something you can hold in your hands. It's something quite magical about that, isn't there?
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you said about the manifesting, because I really got into manifesting about 2 years ago, and I really was not connected to all of this type of world at all until about 4 years ago, to be honest, and it blew me away. You know, healing experiences, whether it be Reiki or Sanomentology or any of these wonderful things, emotion code. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
But what I would say is this I have manifested good things for this book, and when the book goes out, it sits with my crystals up here on the shelf, and I thank every book that goes out, and I hope that the positive energy you know, comes off the pages. But it is all about, you're right, and this is the birthing of something new. There are going to be 7 books, which is your chakra of formation. So the next one is the heart chakra, which is called it's called The Power of Me. So it's just really exciting, and this is just the start. So yeah.
Are you already working on the next book then? Is that already in?
I have a lot of it written. Yeah, well, I've got quite a few written, actually. There'll be 4 or 5, but it does take a lot longer than you think to bang it into shape. And the illustrations are the things, because I'm not an illustrator.
Yeah.
Choosing an illustrator was so difficult.
Yeah.
And I went through some beautiful illustrations, but there was something that just didn't do it for me, and I ended up meeting a fabulous young lady called Hanny Pascoe, So hopefully we'll work together on that next year.
Fabulous. And there's a meditation that goes with the book as well, an option of a meditation to go with the book as well, isn't there?
There is. And this meditation is done by a lady called Tosh Britton. She actually has a part of her brand is Mindful Ninjas. So I just felt that it was perfect to do this with her, a little project together. And it's using the Navistar as a breathing 1, 2, 3, 4, and she just takes you through a meditation. I felt that's, I would rather pass over something like that to someone that knows what they're doing. But it's lovely. So yes, and it's just teaching children, actually you can have a toy watching you belly breathe in and out, and it's a really nice something if you can get your children to sit and do it. It's lovely. It just takes you to another place, really calming.
Beautiful. Do you know what I'm envisaging? I'm seeing, you know, like they did the snowman with the I'm seeing the Navistar as I don't want to say cartoon, because cartoon's not the right word, but sort of an animated, as animated with a beautiful voice telling the story, saying the words. I can see it already. I can see it already.
Really, really interesting, because I can't believe you said the snowman, because I said my dream, and that I've been manifesting is that this is there for children to see in that format. And that's the word that I came up. Wouldn't it be great to have it on your screens at Christmas with this amazing, mystical, magical character just telling you that you are everything, you are enough, think positively, slow down, let's ride together, your journey is before you. I mean, how amazing.
Yeah, I can see it instantly. I was thinking this is going to be on the screen. This is definitely going to be on the screen. I can see it there. And you never know who watches this and thinks, yeah, now isn't that an idea? You know, you never know whether there's an animator or a screenwriter or a filmmaker that might think that that's a great project, because there hasn't been, you know, that is iconic at Christmas, isn't it? The snowman. It's an iconic animation that children gather around and see, and I know that my daughter and future son-in-law and his little boy, they went to see a rendition of it at Lincoln Cathedral last year before, and so it's quite iconic, isn't it? But I can see that the Navistar, with its beautiful illustrations and its beautiful energy, having that sort of platform. Why not?
Be amazing. Just while we're here, look there, because I think that perhaps I'm just going to hold it there. Can you see? He's got a vortex around him. That was so important to me.
Yeah.
That everybody has this amazing aura around them, and it's when you give off an aura of love, it is huge.
Yeah.
But then when you're angry, it shrinks. Your aura shrinks. And the one thing that I wanted was that this Navistar, as we all do, we sit in this amazing vortex, and you know, you have to put good things in the vortex, and that's where the whole flying thing all sort of fits together. So
it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So a whole series of books to come. No doubt it's going to be on the big screen at some point. I just feel it in my bones. So, as I ask with all of my guests, my final question before we end is, if you had a top tip for life to share with those viewers watching or listening in, what would your top tip for life be?
Can I have two?
You can have two if you want, Jane. Yes, you can have two.
That word above me is really where I come from, and if you can just step back and treat things with love, that for me is the most important thing. Being authentic as well, and living in that moment, not just watch around you, just settle into that moment, because it will never happen again.
That's it. And there's another one gone, and there's another one gone. Every moment count.
Yeah, and that creates a memory. So you know, I just think that there were 3 there. I'm really sorry.
I thought you're allowed to have 3. You're allowed to. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
It's
love, authenticity, and just living in that moment. Yeah.
And always coming from love, you know. Actually, I wrote about that, and you know, at any given moment, wherever you find yourself at a choice point, just ask, what would love do? Yeah, what would love do? It's absolutely brilliant chatting with you today, Janie. Thank you so much for sharing time with us and telling us all about the Navistar.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been amazing. Thank you.